right, so I think we are live. I'm going to start off the show with my normal saying, hello, welcome to the Fantasy Fellow Show. I am your host, theFellowKGB. You can follow me on Twitter at theFellowKGB. And it's Sunday today. I'm live right now, but I'm going to upload this video on Monday tomorrow. We're going to be talking about fantasy football tiers and rankings. And I'm just going to, I have on the fantasyfellowship.com, you can go to if you hover over the 2020 content tab and go to cheat sheets, you can simply go and download my rankings for each, whatever scoring format you are, or you can download the tiers page. And I've already uploaded that, but I didn't really care for how it looked the first time around. And at the moment right now, we are going to walk around and we're just going to enter in my new tiers, pick by pick. So at the moment here, I have elite RB1s and elite wide receiver ones. So we're looking strictly at the first round draft picks here. And I really think it's this block of 6 running backs, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, number 1. He's the de facto number 1. You could get a little crazy if you want to and take someone else, but McCaffrey should be your one-on-one. And then you can get a little bit choosy with Barkley or Elliott. And then I think Henry, Kamara, and Cook. These legit guys should be the first 6 players off of your board. So we're going to go ahead here and we're just going to insert these 6 running backs here at the top of the tier. I'll delete these. And now once you get towards, if you have the 7th pick and if any of these running backs are available, I think it's a slam dunk. You're going to want to go ahead and select one of those running backs. But say all 6 running backs go off the board first, I think you're going to want to pivot and look at some of these receivers. I know a lot of these running backs are attractive, but the value is I don't see any scenario where either of these running backs has a top 5 upside, where all the running backs in this column simply they have top 5 upside. So this is where I would pivot to taking a Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, somewhere in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range. I think that's as high as they could go. So we're going to go ahead and put those guys in there, and then just to basically delineate and show they stick out, I'm just gonna gray these guys in so that that's the end of a tier and that's the start of a new tier here. So now we have 1, 2, 3. We have 10 players on the board here. So if you're sitting at 11th pick and any of these guys available that I have shown here, we should actually show these guys as elite receivers, not elite running backs. My bad. So I'm just editing here, and I'm working right now in my Google Sheets document. You can access that in the link below through Patreon. I think this is going to be my last year using Patreon. I'm probably going to make it for sale on the fantasyfellowship.com. But really, with the first 10 picks, I think you should be looking at these guys. I could argue Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders. These guys could be first-round picks, but we are going to create a new tier here, and we're going to call these top 10 RBs / elite RB2s. So if you've been watching some of my videos, you guys know that I prefer taking 2 running backs with my first couple picks. And it's basically this huge tier here of Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Kenyon Drake, James Conner. If you're sitting at the back end of the first round and you don't want to take receiver, I get it because you like the receivers later. So maybe it's okay to take some of these guys. There's really no wrong answers. If you like a player and you feel really good about a player, then yes, you should go do that. If say you live in Cincinnati and you want Joe Mixon, he's probably a top 10 pick in your home league. So I have no problem with that. So I'm going to consider these guys as top 10 RB potential, all of these guys here, but they're going to look phenomenal as your RB2. So say you have the 6th overall pick and one of Henry, Kamara, or Cook falls to you. In the second round, I'm looking at any of these running backs that fall to me. And yes, James Conner is worth a second-round pick because any week that James Conner is healthy, you know that he's probably a top 10 running back. So I try not to let injury history and things like that get to me. But if Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, the Pittsburgh defense is great, the offensive line's great. I'm really into James Conner. So that's how we're going to kind of do that. So ideally I want one of the first 6 picks to get a running back. If you're at the back end of the first round, I think you have to consider a receiver and then taking one of these elite RB2/top 10 running backs. And then after that, so say all these guys are gone, I'm probably taking all of these running backs in the elite RB2 top 10 running back column. I'm taking those guys over Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Kenny Galladay, even DeAndre Hopkins. So what we're going to do here is we're going to list a new wide receiver tier. Let's call it top 10 wide receivers / elite wide receiver 2s. So if you can get any of these guys as your wide receiver 2, that means you probably started wide receiver, but these guys have very high chances of finishing as your as a top 10 receiver. So I don't argue with any of these players. Kenny Galladay can be had in the last round. Allen Robinson actually goes somewhere in the 3rd round. But so if you kind of keep an eye on him, I think he might be a guy worth taking. But I have him as a 2nd round grade. So if we just count these guys up, we have 8 receivers listed, 6 running backs, so that's 14, and then 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I have all these guys being 1st or 2nd round grades. And I guess if you have the 1st overall pick, you know you're taking McCaffrey. So it's like, okay, who's left for me at the 2-3 turn? I think this is where you can begin to consider taking a quarterback, a guy like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, or you could pivot and start looking at the elite tight ends of the group here in Travis Kelce and George Kittle. So let's go ahead here. I'm just going to widen the screen a little bit. So we're gonna make an elite QB1 tier here, and we're gonna call that as we'll put Lamar Jackson here, and then we're gonna put Patrick Mahomes here. So I think this is the earliest that I would feel comfortable taking one of these guys is if all of these guys are gone. Any of these guys are available, I'm probably taking them. And then in this column, here, let's just lessen that up a little bit. And then in this column, we're going to call this elite T1s. And then, of course, this is going to be your Travis Kelce, your George Kittle. So that's kind of how I view, I guess, the first 25, 26 picks. Is I think these guys should be the ones off the board. And like we said, we have 23 guys listed here in the elite RB1s and the elite wide receiver ones. And once you get into the 3rd round, that's where Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes should come off the board. Travis Kelce and George Kittle should be off the board by then. And I guess I could argue that you might like a receiver or a tight end more than you like these guys. So I don't argue if someone wants to go tight end instead of one of these receivers. I would definitely take one of these running backs over a tight end because there's some tight ends I like later. But that's kind of how I'm setting this up at the moment right now. So let's go ahead here, and I guess we're going to kind of kick off the 3rd round. So at the beginning of the 3rd round, I've been calling this the wide receiver round. So I'm not interested in running backs Le'Veon Bell, Chris Carson, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Jonathan Taylor, but I have a feeling he's not going to be able to return value as a 2nd or 3rd round pick. So I'm probably going to list this block of running backs somewhere in the 3rd, 4th round. I might even move Jonathan Taylor up into this Le'Veon Bell, Chris Carson, Ronald Jones tier. But for me, after, say, all these guys are off the board, I'm definitely looking at the wide receivers here. So I'm going to take this whole group, and we're going to put them here, and we're going to call this wide receiver 1 upside, solid wide receiver 2s. So we have 8 wide receivers listed. above. So that means 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That means I have 17 receivers listed on the board right now. And I think all of these dudes right here, Hopkins, Juju, Evans, Lockett, Thielen, Woods, A.J. Brown, and Amari Cooper, and Cooper Kupp are worth a third-round pick. Maybe Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper are at the end of the third round, but if any of these guys if they fall to the fourth round, I think that's where a value is evident. So I'm super into all of these players here. And then once you look at that, I'm gonna probably look towards running back, because I think there might be a little bit of a drop off in Calvin Ridley, DJ Chark, DK Metcalf, Michael Gallup. These guys are all solid wide receiver 2s at the best, but I don't see any wide receiver 1 upside here. Whereas with all of the receivers here, I do see wide receiver 1 upside. So I'm interested in those guys. But once it gets to the end of the third round, maybe the early fourth round, I think that's what we're looking at. So we said we had 23 guys here. So 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Okay, so I have 36 guys on the board. So we are beginning the fourth round now. So I'm going to make a new tier here. I'm going to call this solid RB2s with upside. These guys could be, I know they're going to be solid running back 2s, but they do present a little bit of upside. So I'm going to go ahead here and select Lev Bell, Chris Carson, Ronald Jones. And I'm going to move Ronald Jones down just a little bit here. And we're going to put Leonard Fournette and Jonathan Taylor slightly above him. So now we got 5 running backs here that I have listed into the fourth round. I think that's where they could go. But again, I'm not taking any of these receivers, or I'm taking these receivers over all these running backs. And I guess I could argue maybe Ronald Jones, we're going to delete his name and put him back over here. I think those would be the only 4 running backs that I'm truly comfortable with taking at the end or the beginning of the fourth round. And then, so you're looking for these guys in the fourth, and then after that, I really think you need to consider this group of wide receivers, and then we're going to get some tight ends here. So I'm going to go ahead here, and we'll put those receivers here, and we're going to call these, we're just going to call these solid wide receiver 2s. So again, these guys above here, they have wide receiver 1 upside. I don't really see any of that happening with the guys that I have listed here. But I mean, who knows? Maybe they do have wide receiver 1 upside, but to me, they're definitely ranking below these guys. So I'm interested in all of these guys. I'm going to add just a little bit of a column here just to buffer the tight ends. And then I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put top 5 tight ends. And then this is going to be your Zach Ertz and your Mark Andrews. So I don't have a problem with taking either of these tight ends in the fourth round if that's how you want to do it. To me, it's really clear. You either take one of these top 4 tight ends or you wait until the very end. I have no problem with doing that. But I do have, I mean, there's some tipping points here where I probably would prefer Ridley, Chark, over Ertz and Andrews, Metcalf, Gallup, and McLaurin. You might be able to wait to the 5th round. So it's really about knowing who you're drafting with and what they like and how their tendencies are. But for the moment right now, we're going to list these guys as potential 4th round. So this is like, the 1st round. This is kind of the 2nd round. And then these are kind of your 3rd round options. But these guys are shaping up to be really good 4th round options. And I guess these running backs here would be 4th round options as well. So right now we're kind of teetering in the 4th into the 5th round. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my running backs here. We're going to grab Jones, Gurley, Gordon, and David Johnson, and we're going to put those guys here, and we're going to call these solid RB2s. So if you miss the boat on getting any of these running backs as your RB2 in the beginning, I would strongly recommend looking, definitely in this tier. I think you can find a couple of running backs here that are worth your RB2 value in a PPR league. Ronald Jones, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, David Johnson. So that's basically, we're almost to the end of the 5th round now. So we only have 2 quarterbacks off the board, about 4 tight ends. And I think we have 24 receivers and 24 running backs. So what is that, 48 plus 6. So basically we have 54 players on the board right now. And from now we can kind of, this is where it gets a little bit of fun, because you can kind of, you have your core in place, you kind of know what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead here and we're going to list some solid wide receiver 3s with upside. And for me, I'm gonna move Deontay Johnson up. We're probably gonna move. Yeah, this is an interesting tier because it just keeps going for me. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna list this whole friggin' tier of wide receivers here. So these guys are all gonna be, for me, solid wide receiver 3s with upside. And I'm not a fan of AJ Green or Stephon Diggs at the end, but I think all of these guys have value. All of them are considerable in the 5th, 6th, and maybe even 7th rounds. And then we're probably going to have to list top 10 TEs. Probably have to list solid, we'll go RB3s with upside here. So we're kind of working our way into at this point, I think all these receivers should be gone earlier than later, whether they reach the 6th or the 7th round. But then we get some running backs here that kind of excite me. As your potential RB3s, if you do 0 RB, they could be your RB2. And it's not going to surprise me if any of these guys finish as an RB2. But I really like these players. And it's really just about roster construction and how you look at things. So let me know in the comments if you play Superflex. I don't think a lot of people do play Superflex, but I've seen the future, and I think the standard quo, status quo going forward is going to be these Superflex leagues where you start 2 quarterbacks. So at this point, I think what I would like to do is we're going to add I'm just going to add a little bit of a column here just to separate these guys, and we're going to do top 5 QBs. And we're going to put, of course, Dak Prescott. We're going to put Russell Wilson, and we're going to put Kyler Murray. So that's, these are some of the decisions you have in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And then some of the tight ends available. I don't know who I'm going to call as a top 10 tight ends with upside. And I think I'm only going to put Darren Waller here. If I look at my tight end rankings real quick, I have Waller as my 5th, but you see 196.5, if you can see that there, a huge drop off to Jared Cook at 171.5. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this top 5 upside. Top 5 TE upside. So Darren Waller is probably a top 10 tight end, but he's got top upside. So I hope that makes sense. And we're just kind of moving around here. We're doing okay. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So now I don't know how many players we have off the board at the moment, but I'm feeling pretty good about where we're looking. You should be taking, as you see, the receivers dominate these lower columns. And I mean, starting at the 3rd round, I got all these receivers, and that's kind of how it is. This is kind of your 3rd round. These are kind of your 4th/5th round options, and these should be your 6th and maybe 7th round options. So as we get to this point, it gets a little bit interesting, and this is where teams start, kind of just filling their needs and looking at what they have left to fill out their starting lineups. So we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to call these solid RB3s, and this one we'll call it solid wide receiver 4s with upside. And this one we'll call top 10 TEs. And then this one we'll call top 10 QBs. Okay. So there's really, I struggle with telling people what to do and what I think, because everything's preference. It's really how you want to build your roster. I know everyone's from a different area in America. You know, if you live in Tampa, you're probably higher on Godwin, Evans, Tom Brady, all those players. If you live in Green Bay, I live in Milwaukee, so I'm into Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, things like that. So I get the struggle to build a roster. But basically, at this point, we're going to go ahead here and say solid RB3s, but these guys are more backups. I'm not going to call them handcuffs. We're going to call it solid but flex. So this is going to be your Zach Moss. This is going to be Philip Lindsay, Devin Singletary, Jordan Howard, Marlon Mack. We're going to call those guys here. And then looking at the receiver, we could probably we'll go ahead and group all of these receivers here together in one giant big mess. Let me move these guys up. So solid wide receiver 4s. These are guys that should be really nice bench pieces. Basically, this whole highlighted area here. These guys are all dudes that I would love to have on my bench as my backup running back, my wide receiver 3, 4, my running back 3 or 4. I have no problem with that. Let's just take a look at my tight ends real quick and see if there's anybody. Whether it's Cook, Hunter Henry, and Rob Gronkowski, sure, we'll go ahead and throw those guys in there. So Jared Cook has a really good chance of being a top 10 tight end. Hunter Henry as well, and then Rob Gronkowski. And then let's go ahead and look quick at my quarterback tiers. Oh, I shouldn't highlight those. Quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers. We're going to go with Watson, Stafford, Ryan, Allen. Watson, Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Josh Allen. Okay, so all these guys, I hope this is making sense. If you have questions, let me know. You can follow me on Twitter and DM me there. Or if you would like to leave me a comment below in the YouTube box, go ahead and do that. But we're just kind of working our way down through I don't know what round we're in right now. We're probably in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. We got 10 quarterbacks off the board here, it looks like. 2, 5, we got 9 quarterbacks off the board. And it looks like we got 8 tight ends off the board. So you should have by the 8th, 9th round, you should have a handful of running backs and tight receivers, and then maybe a quarterback or a tight end. We'll see how it goes. But now we're basically getting to the rounds where you can win or lose your draft. So I'm going to call these PPR stat backs. And these are guys that I really value in best ball formats. These are guys that on bye weeks you can whip out as your RB2. These are guys that are going to catch passes and be, pieces of the offense. We're going to go ahead here and this is kind of a big chunky tier, but we're going to take the whole tier. So we're going to call these wide receiver 4s, 5s with upside. So these guys are all kind of wide receiver 2s within their own offense. I know Deebo Samuel's hurt right now, but all of these guys have kind of an unknown ceiling right now, and it might take an injury or two for them to be launched into value, but you really can't argue with having one of these guys on your bench because, they just have so much tremendous hidden upside. And then I think what I'm going to do is so we have our PPR scat backs. We're going to do some bench and cuffs. So we're going to list Madison, Edmonds, Murray. You know what? I don't feel comfortable calling Adrian Peterson a handcuff, but I'm going to do it anyways because we really don't know what's going to happen there. I'm going to put Nyheim Hines in the back of the PPR scat back roll. And then this one, we're going to do a rookie receivers tier. I know I have, where do I have CD Lamb? CD CD Lamb. So I have CD Lamb up here. To me, he's not even like a rookie tier. He's a good bench piece. But then you have some of these rookies here: Chenault, Judy, Reger, Ayuk. Like all these guys could be had real late in drafts. So I'm interested in those receivers. And then now we can probably start listing our potential TE1s. And this list is going to be deep. Let me just tell you that. So we ended at Gronk. So we got Jonnu Smith, Tyler Higbee, Blake Jarwin, Dallas Goedert. So Smith, Higbee, Jarwin, Goedert. Smith, Higbee, Jarwin, Goedert. So Jonnu Smith, Tyler Higbee, Blake Jarwin, Dallas Goedert. And I'm going to go back and look for even more. All the tight ends in the back end are so interesting. We'll even stop at Noah Fant. So here, I'm just gonna copy those players. Just put those there. So we got Hayden Hurst, tight end one upside, Evan Ingram, Austin Hoopa, Miami Mike Gesicki, TJ Hawkinson. Hey, what's up? Someone's in the chat. That's cool. Someone's watching live. It's my first live watcher. That's cool. And then you got, we'll go Noah Fant and Eric Ebron. So all these guys are like literally you could take like 2 or 3 of these guys and see what happens for your season if you don't get one of the top tight ends. So I'm super interested in those guys. But it's a really deep list of potential tight end ones. It wouldn't surprise me if any of these guys finish as a tight end one. The tight end is the hardest position to predict. So I usually like targeting someone that I know is a top 5 legit option. Otherwise, I just punt completely at the position, and I end up taking 2 or 3 of these guys here. So now we're at the point where we kind of have all these really good bench pieces here. All the running backs and receivers left are just going to be like late round darts. So now we can kind of zig back here, and we're going to do potential QB1s. So we'll go ahead and look at my quarterback 1 tier. So that's Rodgers, Brees, Wentz, Goff. We'll go Rodgers, Brees, Wentz, and Goff. So we'll go back to the tiers page. So Aaron Rodgers, Drew. Drew Brees. And we'll go Jared Goff, because Jared Goff's been a QB1 before. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit this year. So, and then down here, we're going to do solid QB2s / streamers. So we have Cam Newton, Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones. Here, I'm just going to copy this nice big list of. Basically, I'm just going to take this whole freaking block. Because, I mean, at this point, you're super late in the draft. All of these guys kind of become a value at some point. So Cam Newton, Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, Ben Roethlisberger is one of my favorite values at this point in the draft. Add R to that. Gardner Minshew, Teddy B, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Filippo Rivers, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, and Drew Lock. So I could probably sub-tier these guys where I probably feel best about Teddy Bridgewater on up. Like, I think those guys are your legit quarterback 2s in a Superflex league. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's just drop that down a little bit. Potential QB2s theFellowKGB queries. So I hope this is helping. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to go ahead here and just list some backup running backs now. More handcuffs / backups. And I'm going to leave a space there. We're going to put Damian Harris up top. Got a lot of stuff going on today. And then, I mean, basically we're looking at players that are going to be the last handful of picks of your draft. This is just the second edition of my new tiers rankings here, but I'm probably going to continue to tweak these and figure these out. Decent bench receivers, we'll just call those that. And then these running backs here, late round darts. So we'll just put those guys there. And I mean, at this point, I think that should pretty much wrap up all of the tiers. So I don't know. I hope this helped. I'm going to try to keep this. I'm going on about 31 and a half minutes here, so I'm trying to keep this video short. But this is just a quick update as to what I'm thinking about and how I navigate the rounds. I'm going to be doing a podcast, basically a round-by-round podcast on Thursday. But again, I'm going to be putting out a video I'm putting out a video every day, the rest of the day until Labor Day. I think September 4th is Friday. That'll probably be my last video before the draft time. So I'm going to be continuing to update my tiers and rankings. Let's see if we can add any more tight ends here. Oh, we deleted these. So let me just add these guys in here. We got, yeah, we'll just call those guys as late round darts. Late round darts. And let's put those. And we'll put those. So these are tight ends that probably will go undrafted in your league. But if you play in a deeper league, you might need to consider them. So let me just go ahead and grab these again. Put that there. So Jack Doyle is a late round guy. Ian Thomas. Chris Herndon could be a league winner. Greg Olson. Irv Smith Jr. Gerald Everett. Dawson Knox. Jordan Akins, OJ Howard, Tyler Eifert. So, and then I guess a little Kyle Rudolph. But these are guys that are all probably going to go undrafted in your home league, so I wouldn't really worry about too many of these guys, although I do think Chris Herndon's probably got the highest potential of the group. But I probably listed over 240 players here, so there should be more than enough for you guys to work with. I think that's going to wrap up this video for the day. I might add some players, some running backs, and some receivers here even later. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my second edition of my tiers rankings. So don't forget to like, leave a comment, ask me questions, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel as we grow this thing. And thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in another video. Peace.